Welcome to this week's edition of A Mugful of Marketing, your regular dose of brews and views from across the world of marketing. I'm Barnaby, Managing Director of 199 Agency.
I'm James, Director of Digital and co-founder.
And this week, we're going to be talking about, should I post this?
Yeah, the million-dollar question.
Yeah, so it's the 3 key principles to creating successful social media content. So the 3 key principles to creating successful social media content. These are universal principles. They're ones that have always applied, and they apply beyond social media. So it's whatever the platform, whatever your business does, whatever your audience is, whatever your message is. These are the principles that we try to apply to everything that we create for clients. So principle 1.
Is it relevant?
Is it relevant? Does it fit your audience? Does it fit your brand? And does it help you achieve your goals? Those are the kind of key questions to ask. Should we unpack those in a bit more detail?
Yeah, so does it fit your audience is all part of the relevancy idea. There's no point making content that isn't ultimately for people that are who you're trying to grow the community around.
Mm-hmm. So you need to know who you're aiming it at, really.
Yeah.
Before you start creating content.
Exactly. And then I think next, as part of this relevancy thing, is whether or not what you're putting together ties back into your end goals of what you're trying to achieve.
So what you're trying to achieve with your content, what your commercial goals, what your wider goals as a business, as an artist.
Are you trying to sell things? Look at what you're actually trying to achieve with the end point of it and whether this gets you any nearer to it.
What action do you want the audience to take as well? Okay.
Exactly.
And the final one, does it fit your brand, your message, your personality?
Exactly. Without it ticking the boxes for that as well, it's ultimately going to damage your brand.
Yeah, so does it fit you? We have to talk about brand pillars. Does it fit those?
Exactly. Brand pillars being the categories of things that make up what you want to portray to the world as a brand.
Yeah. That leads us on, I guess, to principle 2.
Is it good?
Is it good? The quality, I guess, will be if we're going to... is it good? Now, when we say, is it good? That's not just does it look good? It's, does it match your brand again? Does it provide value? Is it aligned with your goals again?
Is it optimized for the platform?
The formatting, things like that are all really important. But if we unpack that, let's start with kind of, does it look good? That is a really important one. But when we say that, we don't necessarily mean, is it professional?
As polished as it can be.
Is it all of those?
No, because good for one person is different to someone else. So someone could have built their brand around something being raw, not filtered in any way. Another brand could have the whole brand around highly produced content, really professional looking stuff. So it's not a one-size-fits-all case. You've got to know what your brand is, though. So that ties back to the brand pillars we talked about before a little bit. What your values are, who your audience is. The other side of this is, I think, good and needs to also factor in things like, is it pixelated?
Yeah.
The actual physical quality of the media that you're posting. Is it a really blurred photo? Because sometimes if it's too far in that direction, no matter what your brand values are, the platforms that you're posting on aren't going to like it.
They're going to punish it.
Yeah.
The algorithm's going to punish it. So
it only becomes good if it's something that creates engagement.
I mean, that brings us on, I guess, nicely to the simple things like sort of formatting, aspect ratio. One of the reasons that we hate using all the scheduling tools is that, there's a kind of lazy temptation to just put the same content out across all platforms. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's important to make sure that everything is tailored to each space, even within separate platforms.
Is it the content that works on that?
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
I think the other side is, does it provide value? Is it entertaining? Is it educational? Is it informative? So that will also tie into whether or not your content is good.
Good. Yeah. As subjective as it is, there are some principles there.
Exactly.
Yeah. And the final one, number 3.
Number 3, timing.
Timing. And this can mean a couple of things, really. There's the kind of very literal timing. What time are you posting it?
Is it a good time to post? That's one that we get asked all the time.
Yeah. The kind of literal timing. Is it timely as well? So, is it relevant to the current events? And also, is it sort of time sensitive stuff as well?
Exactly.
So to unpack those, the kind of the literal timing of it, is it posted at the right time? There are different rules for that.
Yeah, will your audience see it? I think we obviously work with international clients, so it gets quite complicated sometimes when you're trying to speak to multiple territories.
Yeah.
You have to prioritize who that message is actually for. So that time will change. You have to think about human behavior. What is your audience doing right now? Are they at work? Are they on the school run? Are they sat around the dinner table avoiding speaking to their family? All of these things kind of like play a factor on whether or not they will actually have their eyes on a phone, on a device, and see your message.
Yeah, or be in a position to take the action you want them to take.
Yeah.
So if you want them to buy tickets...
Exactly.
Yeah, are they at home with their wallet?
Yeah, so and I think also you don't want to just always post at one time, because you're only going to target people that are behaving in a certain way. Your audience might be made up of a few different types of people with different lifestyles, so you need to factor that in as well. It might be some students, and it might be some professionals, so this will have a factor.
Yeah, and you can look into the analytics of that in terms of previous performance, and you can make some judgment calls on that depending on the content.
Yeah, and the other thing that comes into it as well is if you look on the analytics, it will often say when most people are online, but that doesn't necessarily always mean it's the best time to post, just because that also means you're going to be competing against more people. So it comes down to like real estate in the feed. Maybe posting a little bit just before that and then riding the wave of it would give you more value.
Great. Okay. And then...
So timely.
Timely. This is something... So the word news is just the plural of new. So if it's not new, it's not news.
Yeah.
So making sure that it's something, that you're getting stuff out there that at the right time when it's happening is super important. Is it relevant to the current conversations, the current events, what's going on, the current conversations as well, what your audience is talking about is really important.
Yeah. That's it. You can join a wider conversation, can't you, if you get things right with what you're talking about. That's not to say that you should base your content purely on popular conversations.
No.
Because, again, they might not align with your brand values.
Yeah, and there's a danger if you get that timing wrong. If you turn up late, before, well after, you look dreadful.
You don't like you're trying to ride the wave rather than actually give value to your audience.
The amount of people I see posting stuff and sending stuff to journalists weeks after they should have done, and then being disappointed with the results. And the same's true on social media.
I think another factor with time as well that you need to consider is frequency within that. What's the time between messaging that you've done?
So you're not cannibalizing the
previous
engagement
messaging
from your previous post.
Exactly. You post something straight after something else, you'll end up with 2 posts that don't do anything.
Yeah.
I imagine it's similar with press if you kind of move the narrative on too quickly and things like that. So
you're not getting the value from the stuff that you've sent out there. It's the same.
So allow breathing space as part of your time strategy.
Yeah. Okay. And then the other kind of timing thing is around sensitive content. Just as there's a good time to be talking about things, there's a very bad time to be talking about things.
Yeah.
Is it completely tone deaf? It takes years to build a reputation, but you can destroy it very easily with a badly timed, insensitive tweet, just simply by not paying attention to either the conversation or what's going on in the wider world around you. So yeah, those are the three principles. So we've got: is it relevant? Keep it relevant. Keep it high quality, and we talked a little bit about what that means, and make sure it's timely. Yeah. Great. Well, thank you very much for joining us on this edition of A Mugful of Marketing. And join us next week for more brews and views from across the world of marketing.